Hi, it's Dr. Rheeda. Let's try taking a moment to simply check in with your mind, your emotions, what you can handle. This isn't about changing anything. Just become conscious of where your PF is, your psychological fortitude. Try rating it on a scale of 0 to 10. The point of this isn't to get a number you want. Even if you're at a 3 and you're feeling terrible, so terrible that you almost feel numb. That 3 is information that something has got to give, and soon. Whatever your number is, please know that this session will talk about racism, and it will talk about how to face it. The research on racism is clear and robust. Racism is bad for your health, your physical health, and your emotional health. Some studies suggest that more than 95% of Black people experience racism in their lifetime. Black women experience what researchers have called the double jeopardy. I bet you already know. It's racism and sexism. And Black people who identify as LGBTQ often experience marginalization from African American peers and racism from sexual minority peers. And you probably know this also, but it is worth being honest about racism. Neither it nor the racist institutions that perpetuate discrimination are going anywhere. So let's raise your awareness of the racism-related stress that could undercut your psychological fortitude. Someone yelling a racial slur at you is racism. Being denied a bank loan or having to pay higher interest rates than a white person or really anyone who isn't Black when your qualifications are identical is also racism. Did you hear about the interracial couple's home that was appraised higher when the home was presented as if it belonged to the white husband and with no photos or indications of his Black spouse? Being mistreated due to the color of your skin is racism. You might not be surprised to hear of a fascinating but little-known study as it relates to the insidiousness of racism. In the study, research participants were asked to observe conversations among a multiracial group of white women, white men, Black women, and Black men. The researchers found that more than any other group, Black women's contributions to the conversation were more likely to be attributed to the white men. The Black women suffered most from invisibility. I share this in case such an experience has ever happened to you, leaving you wondering if you had lost your mind. The researchers didn't offer suggestions of what to do, but I have some for you. Simple action items that can help build up your psychological fortitude when racist encounters drag it down. First, let me give you your pre-game reminder so that you can avoid being complicit in your own invisibility. You ready? You are creative and smart and as deserving of being seen, and I mean being fully seen, as anyone else. I'll say that again. You are creative and smart and as deserving of being seen as anyone else. That was your pregame. This is your strategy number 1. Talk to your allies. These are the people who have indicated they care about your well-being or that they despise racism. Tell them what you need from them. Ask if they saw when you were mistreated. If they didn't speak up, tell them that you need for them to be true allies. Racism is a lot to address on your own. Call in backup whenever possible. Number 2, remember what you've inherited. You have come from generations of overcomers. Your ancestors overcame insurmountable odds so you could be here. And even if you are a first or a second generation U.S. citizen, your family sacrificed for you to be where you are. The available research shows that Black people who have a positive sense of what it means to be Black are more likely to thrive mentally. Young people who have learned a positive sense of self from adults perform better in school. When bad things happen, resist by knowing who you are. If you have trouble with this perspective, read Carter G. Woodson's classic, The Miseducation of the Negro. It's a short book that wouldn't take more than a few days to read to understand how systems have been set up to work against you. You have to unlearn a lot of what has been presumed to be fact. We'll talk as get that segregation was in place until the 1960s. Black people who aren't recent immigrants have spent much more time segregated than we have in a generation of equal opportunity. I'll say that again. Black much more time in a system of segregation than we have in a generation of equal opportunity. Okay, last strategy here. Be intentional. Gather stories from your older family members, from your elders, about how they survived in a racist society. Let them know that even though the stories might be painful, it's important for you to hear about the legacy of strength and resilience so that their sacrifices are honored and not buried. Let them know that while others have changed the stories, you don't want to participate in that theft. Make it a point to visit the National Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C., and the new International African American Museum in Charleston, South Carolina. When you take the visits, tap into the sense of frustration of hearing stories you didn't know, but also the sense of pride in all that was accomplished. These stories are your legacy. Claim them. But if you don't do anything else, be careful about what you consume in social media and streaming television, as well as the violence against Black people that replays in the news. If you want to enjoy peak psychological fortitude, you will have to be mindful of what is put in your mind. Okay, let's finish for now by considering your intention. Reflect on what you hope to remember from this session or what you want to be different in your thinking or in your behavior, or both. What perspective or behavior would you like to move toward based on what stuck with you? If you happen to find your mind slipping away from achieving your highest PF, drift back to your intention to get back on track.